Asics has been making footwear since 1949, but only since 2018 have they stepped into skateboarding. The new Leggerezza, it looks clean, it feels pretty different, it promises durability and comfort for under $100. So we're going to, of course, cut it in half, run it through all of our tests, see if Asics is actually doing anything different, or if it's just the same old thing by another bigger corporation getting into skateboarding, or if, you know, their history and like Japanese manufacturing methods actually work. But if you didn't know, Asics was originally started by Kiichiro Onitsuka in 1949, the company being named Onitsuka after him. He originally started making athletic shoes like the suction cup basketball shoe and the marathon tabby. And throughout the 50s and 60s, Onitsuka became prominent in the running world. Fun fact, Nike actually started by importing Onitsuka shoes into the USA in the 60s. So without Onitsuka and Asics, there would be no Nike, which is crazy. But they weren't known as Asics until 1977 when three companies, Onitsuka Co., GTO Co., and Gelink Co. merged together creating Asics. And Asics actually stands for Anima Sana Incorpore Sano. This saying means a sound mind in a sound body. It's the company's guiding philosophy. So Asics has been growing and being a dominant player in the athletic shoe game since the 40s. Right now they're very much back in fashion thanks to like sports style and like running shoes. But Asics is not like other shoe companies. Japanese manufacturing is held in such high regard because it combines centuries-old craftsmanship traditions with modern systems of precision, efficiency, and quality control. The Japanese concept of monozukuri translates roughly to the art of making things with skill and spirit. It emphasizes pride in workmanship, attention to detail, and a deep respect for materials and processes. This cultural philosophy extends from small artisanal workshops to giant corporations, and that's something that both Gino Iannucci and Casper had noticed when we interviewed them. They're very focused on quality over quantity. Japanese principles include relentless quality control, pioneering methods like Kaizen or continuous improvement, precision and consistency, and valuing long-term reputation and relationships over short-term profits, which is huge, especially in today's world. There's a reason that Asics has been around for so long and why Nike started by importing and copying their shoes. If the product is good, the people will follow. So with all of that history of footwear and dedication to making actually good products, Asics decided to finally get into skateboarding around 2018 before the Olympics in Japan. They didn't jump in headfirst and start throwing around big budgets like some other companies try to do. They started very small and very timidly getting into bigger markets. They actually just launched in the US a couple years ago, which brings us to Gino Iannucci. Legendary pro skater, he's renowned for his style, taste, and most specifically his push. So in 2020, after Gino was cut from Nike, he didn't want to skate for any big company. He's actually buying his shoes from Target, which was crazy. But eventually he got sent a pair of Asics Gel Vicas, and he liked them so much, he immediately reached out and was like, yo, can I get some more? So having the Gino stamp of approval when he wasn't even paid by them says a lot. He actually posted a video for his brand Poets when he was doing a collab with Chico Sticks. The video got posted on Thrasher, and all the comments were about Gino's new Asics shoes. So Gino kind of accidentally soft launched Asics into the US market, maybe a little bit early. So now after 76 years of shoe manufacturing, we're gonna cut this in half to see what Asics actually does differently, or if it's all just really good marketing to use the reputation of Japanese manufacturing to sell a subpar product. We see it a lot. But this style is very reminiscent of another popular shoe, the Adidas Samba. So we're gonna compare the two, the Asics versus the Samba, to see if Asics and their hallowed principles of Japanese manufacturing actually hold up. So I'm gonna skate it, cut in half, do a direct comparison, and I'm gonna judge it on durability, materials, comfort, and overall skating ability.
Just taking pictures of my cat, okay? This is our most popular camera harness and, in my opinion, the most comfortable way to carry one camera. Because as you can see, made of premium leather, solid brass hardware, so it's not gonna wear out and rust and ruin your clothes. But more importantly, look at the contouring. Not just straight lines, not straight straps like every other camera harness out there. It actually contours and flows with your body to make that weight distributed a lot more equally. And even when you're not using it, if you want all that weight off your back and shoulders, got these little hip clips on our custom hardware. It allows you to clip it right to your hip, to put it more on your hips where it's a lot more comfortable to have that kind of weight. So ease your back pain, ease your neck pain, put all the weight of this heavy camera not on your neck, put it equally distributed with the Lone Bandit camera harness.
So that brings us to this shoe, the Leggerezza. Leggerezza.
Margarita.
So the brand is Asics. The style is the Leggerezza FB, or football boot. It weighs 12.8 ounces. It retails for $95, which is $5 cheaper than the Skate Sambas. It's made in Vietnam. You can get both these shoes from the links below. But actually the history of this shoe is pretty interesting. The Leggerezza can actually trace its roots back to 1989. The design being based on a soccer shoe, I'm pretty sure it's called the Injector Arezzo. It's pretty much the exact same shoe without the cleats on. I think the outsole is actually from another Asics product. I think it's called the Skyhand. So it's like this old upper from 1989 and this new outsole. So Asics has a history of using all their knowledge of other sports to make skate shoes, but soccer or football shoes seem very contrary to skating. They're very slim, there's not a ton of protection, it's just like leather socks around your feet, so you can have a lot of good ball control, which is completely the opposite of what a lot of skate shoes are, with super puffy tongues and giant toasters of shoes, tons of padding. I'm kind of looking at you, DC and Osiris, the D3. I mean, just look at those compared to this. But the skate team actually saw this shoe on a trip to Japan when the designers wanted to get their reaction to it, and everyone was hyped. So Asics tapped Gino Iannucci, who's known for wearing indoor soccer, kind of slim style shoes, and being pretty picky about what he skates, to see what changes they could make, and he said it was good to go, no changes needed, which is a huge compliment to the shoes and a testament to their quality. The Gino stamp of approval is a pretty big deal. But we're not here to test, good looks and hearsay. We're here to actually test them. So I'm gonna start with my biggest gripe about the Sambas, which is the comfort. So skating in the Sambas, while I enjoyed it and it skated pretty good, it just destroyed my feet and my knees and my hips. There's just no padding under it. Like you can see, it's just a pretty slim shoe, no padding at all. But the Asics is immediately more comfortable on foot, and I'm not sure if that's just the last shape or the insole, or if it just I had a Samba bias because I skated them right after the biggest, puffiest 933s and then went to Sambas. So let's actually put it to the test. So in the insole, the Adidas has a pretty thin, just open cell foam insole, and then on the Asics it's actually non-removable, so it's glued in there, so I can't see. There's a little blue foam in there. I don't know if you can see that. So we put it on the ball drop test, and the Adidas bounced up 19 inches and the Asics bounced up about 19 inches, so far dead even. But on the bar drop, where we flip it around and do a heavier impact test, the Adidas bounced up 5 inches, but the Asics only bounced up 3.5 inches. So for skating, the higher the rebound, the more impact is going directly into your knees when you land something. So the Asics definitely cushions more than the Adidas while having the same amount of response. Most of my skate shoes I have to take off after I'm done skating, put on something else, just to give my feet a break. But the Asics I could just loosen up and keep wearing all day, which is super rare. So I'm really interested to see what's actually on the inside of this, or if it's just another egg crate midsole. So on comfort, Asics definitely gets the edge, but comfort isn't everything. Onto the Rose Anvil special, the leather tests. And we recently got an actual abrasion tester so we can really show you what leather is better. So both have leather uppers, but the Adidas has this suede toe while the Asics just has the leather. I mean, they both have that T-toe kind of shape like a soccer shoe does. They're both pretty heavily coated leathers. The Adidas is just maybe a little softer and more supple. It almost looks a little wet compared to the Asics, looking a little more dry. So if you take it to the burn tests, on the Adidas, it just kind of burns the coating off. It is real leather underneath, but the Adidas logo is fake. And the Asics, it performs about the same. I mean, it's real leather, it just kind of flakes the coating off. The Asics logo is also fake, so pretty even right there. But then if we go to the thickness, which is what really matters, we take a measurement, and the thickness of the Adidas leather is 1.5 millimeters, and the Asics is 2.1 millimeters. I think the thickest leather on a skate shoe I've seen so far is the New Balance 306, which was 1.8 millimeters. So far so good on Asics, holding to those Kaizen continuous improvement principles. But also the Asics has all the stitching. It has the classic soccer cleat toe stitching, which I just learned from our in-house soccer aficionado, Jaron, that the stitching is there to create more grip on the ball. It gives you different zones, and he was telling me it's for ball control and adding a little more, texture and grip. But I think what an added benefit of having these lines there is it adds flexibility. It adds natural flex points into the leather, which is good because when the leather is thicker, it takes a little longer to break in. So it's nice to have those natural built-in flex points. But to really see what the better leather is, we put it on the Martindale Abrasion Test. So this is where we use grip tape as the abrasive. I use Mob Grip because it's the grippiest grip. So we put that on the bottom, and then there's samples of leather on the top. Then the machine rubs the shoe sample against the abrasive in circles. It kind of simulates the hardest wear you can possibly do to shoes skating. So for skating, I set it for 500 cycles and we'll measure at each interval. After 500, Adidas has gone from 1.5 millimeters to 1.4 millimeters. And Asics has gone from 2.1 millimeters to 1.95 millimeters. So they're performing about the same. They're losing about 1.1 millimeter of thickness, but I set it for another 500 cycles and Adidas did not make it to 1,000 strokes. The Samba leather actually failed at 916 strokes, which is the second lowest of all the tests we have run. So Asics in that 500 to 1,000 went from 1.95 to 1.1 millimeters, so it did lose a lot of material, but it didn't fail like the Adidas did. So I set it for another 500, but I kept a closer eye on it since it was almost wearing through, and it finally failed at 1,183 strokes. So it's definitely better than the Adidas, but it's still pretty low. This is why I prefer suede on my skate shoes. It's kind of proving my suede versus grain leather bias in skating. So the Asics leather is better, but to be honest, It's not as great as I thought it was. Skating the leather, it did feel a little less grippy. So strictly from a material standpoint, I'm not wowed by the leather, but it is definitely thicker than the Adidas. But I'm a suede guy through and through. But let's move to the outsole to see how Asics can apply their tech there. It's probably the most important part of the shoe because you can repair the upper of a shoe forever. You can shoe goo it, but once the outsole starts to go and you start getting holes here, you start getting, this starts peeling off right there. It's kind of shot. That's harder to impair. It's almost impossible to salvage. So for comparing, the Adidas has a rubber cupsole, comes in about 65 Shore. It's pretty average for a skate shoe. The higher the number, the harder, slicker, and more durable it will be. The lower the number, the softer and more grippy, but much faster wearing it will be. That's kind of those principles of what the Shore test is. The Asics has a pretty similar gum cupsole. Like you can see, they're pretty similar, same color and everything. But this one comes in at 60 Shore, so it's a little softer. It's still in the same ballpark. So the outsoles are pretty comparable. For durability, I think they're on par. I mean, you can see they're already starting to wear in like the same kind of patterns right there. I think they're gonna be just about equal with each other. So is Asics living up to these high standards of Japanese manufacturing? In the comfort, I'm gonna say yes. Like the Asics feel way more comfortable on foot. For the leather, it is nicer than the Adidas. It's kind of on par. I'll give them like a half point for that, I guess. I mean, just because it's thicker. If it was thinner, it would wear the same as Adidas and not be as good. So I guess they do get a point for that. And the outsole, I mean, it's on par. I'm wondering if it's just another egg crate outsole like the Adidas, or in the gel flex ski, there's like a little gel pad with it and all that foam. So let's get it cut in half, see what's inside, and see how it actually compares, or if it's just, the same shoe made with slightly different materials. All right, so we got them cut in half. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. It's the best way to support us when we're buying, 3 pairs of shoes each week to cut in half, just to show you what you're spending your hard-earned money on. So yeah, that's the best way to support us. So let's see what's inside. All right, so I'm actually shocked by the guts of the Asics. There's 2 big differences with these versus the Adidas Sambas. The most obvious difference is that where Adidas has this big rubber egg crate midsole, Asics has a dual density foam midsole, which is why it feels so much more comfortable right off the bat. And it will definitely feel better when you land. I think 90% of other skate shoe companies would use an egg crate midsole here. We've seen it again and again, like with shoes like the DC Lynx, the Lakai, the Sambas. I mean, it does make a huge difference. We rarely see dual density like this too in any shoe, much less shoes under $100. My hips and knees and feet they get destroyed when I'm skating Sambas, but the Asics, I just felt totally fine, and this completely makes sense. Like, it's not even that much foam, but it makes such a big difference. It's awesome. So big points to Asics there for actually making it more comfortable. The other hidden differences are Asics has about twice as much foam in the actual tongue, which definitely adds to the comfort. So the Asics also has a layer of foam lining around your foot instead of the typical fabric lining like the Adidas. It really does make a difference, and the Adidas are more expensive than these. I think these are $5 more expensive than this, and they really make the shoe much more comfortable. When I first got these, I was in New York, and I walked probably like 15,000 steps in them that night that I actually got them. I was like, these are really comfortable. Like, I'm surprised they're so comfortable. Like, I immediately went to Weston and I was like, oh dude, I think like Asics has a pretty solid shoe here. So I'm glad that all my thoughts and my theories are actually backed up by what's in the shoe. My friend Austin, who you probably saw in the clips behind me all lean over really tall stuff, also definitely agreed that these are much comfier than Sambas. They're super cozy on foot. So what's the better skate shoe? Like, does Asics Japanese manufacturing way actually make a difference? So material wise, I think Asics clearly has the edge. The leather and the outsole, they're pretty similar, but the Leggerezzas definitely took the cake with the guts, like the comfort upgrades, and it's $5 less. I think you start getting the egg crate outsole / midsoles when you need to make a shoe hit a certain price point because it's only one part, while the Asics has 3 separate parts. Like, this one layer is equivalent to all 3 of the outsole, this midsole part, and then the actual foam midsole right there. So the more I learn about mass manufacturing and how complex it is, the more interesting it gets. So if any company wants to let us come through and like see the manufacturing side of things, hit us up. I think that'd be super sick to show everything. So for the overall, like the main pros and cons of this whole shoe, I think the pros of the Asics are it's super comfortable for a skate shoe, and even just wearing around, it's really comfortable. It's under $100 for a cupsole, which is pretty rare these days, and the leather is thicker than most skate shoes. I think personally I'd still go suede over leather, but I like that the leather they're using is actually pretty thick. The cons, the leather is pretty slippery at first, and it's kind of a personal preference, but they're not super supportive or super stiff. So you're still, gonna be a pretty thin cupsole when you're skating them, but it's definitely gonna feel a lot comfier than just skating an egg crate. I think one more con is that this stitch isn't actually a real stitch. I thought it would be really cool to have double redundancy in a skate shoe, but it is under $100 and that would add to the price a lot. The Sambas don't have a stitch and they held up pretty well and they're pretty comparable outsoles. So I think it was more of a personal con that I was like, oh man, they actually have double redundancy. So ranking it on a chart of confidence strictly based on my skating ability in them, 1 being I can't skate in them at all, 10 being I can do everything with no questions asked, I would probably put these at a 6.5. It's tied with the Sambas, but your body will feel much better after the fact. Oh my goodness. So far the two Asics that I've skated, this and the Gel Flex Ski, have actually impressed me the way they're making them. It's good to see that big companies like Asics and like New Balance that seem to be actually putting in the work to make solid skate shoes, instead of some other companies which we've seen that they just kind of cut corners, or they come in with big cash and just like sponsor all the top dudes and call that good and make a subpar product for you. Whichever of these you choose, make sure to buy them from your local skate shop. I think skate shops really need the help right now. They always carry the heat. I think the Asics you can actually only get from skate shops right now. I think that's it. Make sure to watch the interview we did with Gino about his specific colorways and materials for the Leggerezza. You can get a peek behind the scenes of Asics skate program and kind of look into Gino's brain. Super cool stuff in there. Gino is really nice, super nice guy. Let me know what other skate shoes you want to see. Watch this video, because if it doesn't get a bunch of views, we'll just stop doing skate shoe stuff. I think that's it for me. Surprisingly, shout out to Asics for making a pretty decent shoe. Go!